Good evening and welcome to a new edition of the RO Sports Show we're calling Ross in the Rink. And we thought with the Stanley Cup playoffs beginning, we figured we'd talk some hockey here on the RO Sports Show. I am, of course, Matt Harrelson. Alongside with me, some new faces on the desk. We got Justin Clark and Anthony Bristow. Guys, we really appreciate you joining us, and we sent out a search party here in Richmond County to try to find some hockey fans, and we found what I'm hoping are going to be two of the best. So once again, thank you for joining us here on the desk. So, of course, with the Stanley Cup playoffs beginning, the Hurricanes are in there, and we thought what better way to start off than talking about these jerks that I see you guys are wearing all the time.
That's right.
First of all, let me ask you this. Where does this bunch of jerks thing come from?
So, hockey in Raleigh's not been the best the last 10 years, as most people know. They haven't made the playoffs 10 years. They've been kind of irrelevant for the last 10 years, unfortunately. I think this was just a way for the team to bond with the fans, celebrate a win together, celebrate with the fans. If you went to a game, you saw the fans, even for a game typically maybe most of the fans will leave halfway through. They were staying. They wanted to see the celebration. They wanted to see the clap, what fun things they were doing. Well, there's a hockey announcer in Canada named Don Cherry. He feels it's disrespecting the sport, disrespecting the other team. He felt it was them being jerks. So I don't know how you feel about that, but that's pretty much how it was. He called them a bunch of jerks, and they took it, ran with it, made shirts the same day. He said that. So
why not embellish it?
Yeah, that's probably the greatest piece of marketing to ever come to the Carolina Hurricanes. Thank you, Don Cherry.
Yeah, exactly.
He's filled seats, he's sold shirts, and
he's definitely made a couple extra bucks for the Hurricanes. Now, you mentioned the celebrations. I remember reading when the season started, maybe even in preseason and throughout the season, that the Hurricanes have tried some different kinds of celebrations. Am I talking about that right? Or maybe it was like a pregame celebration or something that made them stick out this season.
the storm surge.
Okay, well, tell us about that then.
Well, after a win, you get a unique celebration that you never know what's going to happen.
So it's different every win.
Every single game, every single team you play against, the players come up with it.
Yeah, they've bowled, they played basketball, they fished, duck hunt, the limbo. It's been all kinds of different celebrations.
So I got to ask, I'm looking at the records here. Carolina won 46 games this year, so that's 46 different celebrations.
No, I believe they've started probably about December, correct?
Yeah,
December,
probably.
They started this.
Still, that's a lot of creativity.
Yeah, I would say there was a good 20 or 30 celebrations they had this year.
They did start taking some fan suggestions on Facebook.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, well, as I mentioned, the Hurricanes 46-29 finished fourth in the Metropolitan Division this year with 99 points. They are, of course, going to be matched up in the first round with the defending Stanley Cup champions, the Washington Capitals. So, first of all, the Hurricanes went 0-3-1 against the Caps in the regular season. So, without a win here, Justin, let's start with you. What do they need to do to win this series?
They're just got the match grind for grind. Washington is a team. They have Alex Ovechkin, who's by far the best scorer in the league right now. He leads in goals every single year. They have Braden Holtby, who, when he's hot in goal, he's almost unpassable. It's almost impossible to get a goal behind him. And this is typically when he starts to shine, is in the playoffs. So under Justin Williams, the captain, his leadership, Rod Brendamore's work ethic, we're going to grind this out. I think if they can pull together the young talent with Sebastian Aho, Tara Vinen, Nino Niederreiter, who they picked up right before the trade deadline, who's been a phenomenal pickup for them. And their goalie's been playing well as things. Peter Mrazek, he's had a nice hot streak himself. If they can all come together, I think they can really give Washington a run for their money. It might not be the outcome we want, but I think they can definitely give Washington the fight that anybody could give them.
I think you just named everybody on the roster there. Speaking of captains, Rod Brindamore, who, of course, if you're a Hurricanes fan, even myself as a casual hockey fan, know who he is. And as you guys mentioned, was the captain when they last went to the playoffs in 2009. Is that correct?
06 for sure when they won the Cup.
06 when they won the Stanley Cup. All right, so with that being said, he is now the head coach. Let's start with you. What has Rod Brindamore done for this team taking over as the head coach?
He's Rod's kind of like the cool uncle in the group. He's he's played alongside some of the guys. He played with Justin Williams on the 06 team, so now he's coaching somebody that, of course he played with. And I feel like they're not only looking at him as a leader, but also an inspiration. They've watched him hoist the cup. They want that same feeling.
All right. Yeah, and obviously you look towards your head coach in any sport for experience, for advice, and, of course, a guy that's been there, and Ron Brindamore is obviously a good example. Now, we heard Justin say what they need to do in order to get this win against the Caps. What do you think?
I think just looking at the numbers, if they can stay out of the penalty box, the Capitals, they're not great on the penalty kill. So if we can get them up against the rope on the power play, I think we can carry the series out for sure.
I know this will be, excuse me, easier said than done, but how do you, I don't even want to say stop, but how do you neutralize a scorer like Ovechkin?
Peter Mrazek.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hopefully your goaltender's locked in and in zone, and pretty much comes a brick wall in the net. So hopefully that's Peter Mrazek gives us that. Hopefully in this series coming up.
All right. So obviously we're going to talk more about the Hurricanes when I get you guys' predictions here overall. But let's talk about, before we start looking at each matchup, I got some questions here for you that I want to ask you guys overall about the league this year. So looking at the numbers here, the records, how many points were scored, it seems like Tampa Bay was the best team in the NHL this season. So whichever one of you guys want to answer first, can anybody beat the Lightning this year? Are they the team to beat?
I'm going to say absolutely.
All right.
Because Cinderella stories happen pretty much in all sports. Every playoff series, there's always an upset, and right now they're standing on top of the mountain.
So would the Lightning winning, would that be considered a Cinderella, even though they've got 128 points and it seems like no one's even close to that?
Oh, no, I'm saying whoever they go up against in this first round is.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, that's going to be the Columbus Blue Jackets, who are fifth in the Metropolitan. We're 47-31, so they've obviously got their hands full. Tampa Bay, though, the third team in history to win more than 60 games. I mean, that's really impressive, right?
Yes, absolutely. They're a great bunch. They can score a lot of goals. Kucherov is their dynamite scorer on their team. Steve Stamkos is their captain. He can score as well. They got a great goalie. Columbus came out of the Metro. The Metro is probably the toughest division overall by far in the NHL this year.
Yeah.
It's going to be a tough hill to climb for Columbus, though. It could happen, but
sure.
I don't think this first round is going to be it.
One thing I would point out is if you look at the preseason break where they stopped for the All-Star match, if you pick up the record there, they've actually started to decline. They're not the hottest team right now.
Okay.
And so, they could stumble here in the playoff series.
All right. Now, we've already touched on the Capitals a little bit, but it seemed like Washington had been to the playoffs several years in a row, never could seem to get over that hump. Obviously, last year they were able to do that, so they're going to be playing with more confidence. Could the Capitals win back-to-back cups this year? Is that something? I mean, obviously it could happen, but is that something that's feasible?
As much as I would love to see Ovechkin, go party around Las Vegas with the cup again, I think the Carolina Hurricanes are going to take them in the first round.
Okay. All right.
I agree. Maybe I'm being biased, but like I said earlier, if any team could knock off the defending champs, I think we're the team who could get pushed back a little bit and fight back. I think the Cinderella story this year could possibly be us.
I'm with you. I would love to see Ovechkin doing more keg stands with the Stanley Cup, but no matter what sport it is, it's very difficult to win back-to-back championships.
Yes,
whether it's hockey or whether it's rugby, whatever the case may be, that's going to be tough to do. And I'm with you guys. I hope the Hurricanes are able to beat them. Third question here for you. It's been 26 years, and I didn't realize this, but 26 years since a Canadian team has won a Stanley Cup. Now, we've got quite a few in here. Let's see. Toronto Maple Leafs are one. We've also got the Calgary Flames and the Winnipeg Jets. Could we see a Canadian team win the Stanley Cup this year between those three?
On my bracket that I made for the NHL challenge, I've actually got a Hurricanes Calgary final.
Okay.
Which would be very interesting considering Bill Peters was the coach for the Hurricanes and now he's with Calgary.
All right.
So I could see it happening. Even if we're not there, I could see Calgary going.
Yeah, if I had to pick a team out of Canada, it would be Calgary as well. Bill Peters, the former Canes coach. They have a guy named Johnny Gaudreau there who's a great playmaker. They've been really well this year. They've actually won home ice advantage, I guess you would say, through the western part of the playoffs. So that would be my pick as well. Would be Calgary.
Yeah, and I don't know the names quite like you guys do, but I can look at the stats here. And Calgary finished first in the Pacific. They were 50-25, which, by the way, just goes to show you how dominant Tampa Bay was this year.
Yes.
That 50 wins in the West gets you a number 1 seed, and they were still 9 games behind the Lightning. But 107 points from the Flames this year. And I guess, if you're going to take a Canadian team, might as well take the number 1 seed. Yeah. So Here's a guy to talk about that pretty much every hockey fan knows, and those outside of hockey should know, is Sidney Crosby, one of those guys like Ovechkin that kind of transcends the sport. Now, he's obviously been very successful in his career with the Penguins, but could we see Crosby add to his legacy this year?
I'm going to say yes. We're going to see, some Sports Center highlight reel rolls.
Mm-hmm.
He's gonna perform well, but I don't think the team as a whole is going to go that far.
So is it a matter of Crosby's great, but the rest of the team not so great?
It's hard to say, but I would agree. I think you can never not bet on Crosby. Crosby's
Right.
the Tom Brady of the NHL now. I mean,
Okay.
he's always going to go to extra gear. I mean, he's got a lot of the same talent around him. He's been there in the past with Letang and Phil Kessel and Matt Murray, the goalie. But I just don't think they're clicking as well this year as they have in the past. I don't know how you feel, but I feel like this year's they might make a nice push, maybe even scare some people like, oh, is this another Penguins title? But I just don't think it's in the works this year for them.
I think they'll probably be out by the second series.
Yeah.
Well, I was looking at some other stats here. Crosby had 95 points this year, which sounds like a lot to me. I don't know. You guys can tell me whether that is, and could be a finalist for the Hart Trophy. How long has he been in the league now? Because I remember when he came up, but it seems like he's been in the league for quite some time now.
He's probably been in about 13 years or so.
Wow, that long,
I
huh?
couldn't begin to say.
Yeah,
Wow.
probably 13. I'd say 12, 13 years probably. I believe he was drafted in 05. Don't quote me on that.
Yeah,
but I think
but I mean,
it's 05.
even if it's not, it's at least a decade.
Yeah,
It just,
yeah.
Man,
Oh,
that's,
yeah,
that's
yeah.
crazy to think that he's been in the league for that long. But the Penguins going to be matching up with the Islanders in the first round, and this seems like a very tight matchup here. The Islanders went 48-27. The Penguins 44-26. They're within 3 points of each other overall. So I know a lot of people looking forward to that one. And then finally, our last question. You kind of touched on it already, Anthony. But could we see a Cinderella story this year? And I've got one example here. Perhaps are those very own Islanders who finished 11th last year. They lost John Tavares to free agency and somehow got better. So just throwing that team out there. Is that a team we could see as a Cinderella story? Could it be the Hurricanes? What do you guys think?
I mean, anything's possible. I do have them picked to win their first round.
Talking about the Islanders?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I would agree. I had the Islanders making it out of the first round as well. They're a tough team. They grind. They have the best defense in the league. They have a great coach. He was the former Capitals coach last year, Barry Trotz. So he's a wonderful coach. Obviously, my Cinderella pick's always going to be the Hurricanes. I had them.
Right.
I had the Islanders, I think, going to the second round of my bracket challenge as well, making it to the second round. But if I had to pick two Cinderellas this year, it would be either the Islanders or the Hurricanes
right.
out of the Metro.
So if you guys are wondering what I'm writing down, we're getting ready to do picks. So we finish this up here. So I'm going to write everybody's names down. Now, I know you guys have done your brackets. You can pull off of those if you want to, or if you remember them, just shout them out here. And I may just piggyback off of you guys' picks. But let's start in the Eastern Conference, and let's start with the number 1 seed, Tampa Bay Lightning, taking on those Columbus Blue Jackets. 62-16 was Tampa Bay's record. 47-31 was Columbus's record. Now, 47-31 sounds like a good record, but when you go up against the team that's won 62 games, it looks kind of minuscule. But you guys both taking Tampa Bay?
I'm taking Tampa.
All right.
Yep.
Tampa Bay, and guess what? I'm taking the Lightning as well. Moving on, Boston Bruins and the Toronto Maple Leafs. We haven't talked about these guys since we started the show, but who do you think wins this matchup?
I'm taking the Bruins.
All right.
I'm taking Boston as well.
Why?
Oh, sorry.
No, either one of those. Why are you taking the Bruins?
I had a chance to attend the game that we played against them, which was actually our Throwback Whalers night.
Okay. Oh,
And,
yeah, nice.
We did defeat them, but I just liked their style. They weren't taking any wild shots. It was clean passing. They're a strong team. They're not to be overlooked.
All right.
They're strong, like you said. Their top line is an elite top line. Their top 3 forwards. And they're a very experienced team as well. They've been here before. They've played together for a while, so they're going to be hard to knock out, I believe.
Well, I will, just to play devil's advocate, we'll take the Maple Leafs. Just so maybe down the line I can outplay you guys in this, even though I'm the guy that plays March Madness and picks which team colors you like better in this scenario. Now, let's move on. Let's talk about the Penguins and the Islanders. Who you guys want to take in this matchup?
I've got the Islanders.
All right. New York for you.
Yep, Islanders as well.
So I know you guys kind of touched on it, but Sidney Crosby, just not enough to get over the hump here?
He's going to look really good in a couple highlight reels, and then he's going to be playing golf this time.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm going to take the Penguins here because him I know, and no one I know on the Islanders. So, all right. And then to finish up the Eastern Conference here, this might go without saying, but you guys both taking the Canes? Yeah. All right. So I know we've kind of touched on the Canes already, so if you're watching the top of the show, you'll know why these guys are picking them. However, it's going to be tough to beat the Capitals. I think we all can agree on that, right?
It'll be a tough fight.
All right, so let's move to the West here. I got these written down. Colorado Avalanche and the Calgary Flames. You both guys taking the Canadian team?
Yeah, Calgary.
All right. Why you guys picking Calgary?
Calgary, like I said, they got an elite player on their first line. They won pretty much the Western Conference, like you said. They finished well behind Tampa Bay still, but they're definitely the second best team in the league this year. Colorado's been kind of up and down this year. They almost didn't even make the playoffs. They had to clinch one of the last games of the year, and their goalie has actually struggled in the past in the playoffs, so I could see that kind of haunting him again this year. So,
Bill Peters, even though he was uneventful here the last couple seasons,
he's a good coach,
he is a good coach, and he seems to have kind of struck gold there in Calgary. He's making things happen. There's also 2 former Hurricanes there as well.
Okay.
And they're having good seasons.
Yep.
You know, like I mentioned, looking at the stats, the Avalanche are quote-unquote the weakest team out of the lineups here. 90 points, 38 and 30, so obviously it seems like they kind of fell backwards into the playoffs. So I think most people, unless you live in the Colorado area, going to be taking the Flames here. Moving on, the San Jose Sharks and the Vegas Golden Knights. Now, before I get you guys' picks on this, let's talk about the Knights here for a minute, because last year was their inaugural year. And yet, they almost won a Stanley Cup. Now, when you see this in other sports, that never happens. So how are they able to start a team from scratch and almost win a championship?
There were a lot of guys that got cut from teams that, you know, they were dearly attached to go fill the roster at Vegas. And I think that they really fed off of that energy. You know, when you take the ice against your former team and say, well, those guys didn't want me, I'm going to show them why I'm here.
So it's kind of a motivational thing.
Oh,
then.
yeah,
absolutely. They definitely bonded together. They didn't have even a single captain last year. They had, I think everybody had a A on their jersey for alternate captains. I don't think they even had a captain. Like you said, I think they all had a chip on their shoulder, and the town really rallied around them to be a first-year team. Vegas really brought them in and adopted them.
I'll say with the Las Vegas shooting, the Vegas Strong hashtag and all that, the entire city kind of adopted the Golden Knights as kind of the I guess something to rally around after that shooting.
Okay.
And there was just a lot of energy following that.
Absolutely. So who you guys taking, the Sharks or the Knights?
I'm going Knights.
All right.
I'm going Sharks.
Oh, okay. We got a difference of opinions here.
Yeah. First time all night, I believe.
I'm going to take the Sharks too, just because I'm kind of going chalk here. But let me ask you guys this. Looking forward, let's say that the Knights lose here. Either way, they've still been to back-to-back playoff appearances in their first 2 seasons. As a brand-new expansion team, can they keep this up? I mean, guys are going to want to go play in Vegas, right?
I would say so.
Yeah.
I was out there in February. They're building them a brand-new facility.
Exactly,
just specifically for them.
Yeah.
So they'll be out of T-Mobile Arena. There's a hockey culture developing out there.
Okay.
Yeah, I would agree. I would think that would be a nice destination for a lot of guys that want to play. And like I said, the new culture, the new facilities, the arena, just the idea of playing in Vegas. I mean, I think that would be alluring to a lot of
so they just missed
players.
out on they actually played in the Stanley Cup last year, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
correct.
And then, of course, they're back in the playoffs this year. We'll have to wait and see how far they go. But do you guys foresee a Stanley Cup in their future eventually?
I'll say within the next 5 seasons.
Okay. You agree?
I would say 5 to 10. Yeah.
Okay.
It's a hard cup to win, though. So
It is.
It's
It
hard
is.
to say. Yeah.
All right, moving forward. Matchup here that we also haven't talked about, that would be the Nashville Predators taking on the Dallas Stars. Predators finishing first in the Central at 47-29. The Dallas Stars coming in fourth in that same division at 43-32. So who you guys got?
I got Dallas.
Taking the Stars.
Taking the
all right.
Stars.
Who you got, Anthony?
Regretfully, I put Nashville when I made my bracket,
Okay.
and then I had a little remorse. I've been feeling Stars here.
Well,
lately.
besides your bracket, you can start over here.
I'm going Stars.
I'm going to take the Stars. All right, very good. Well, I'll tell you what, guys. The Predators scored 100 points this year. The Stars scored 93, so I'll take the Predators. with no basis on any of this again. And then finally, our last matchup here in the West, another one of those Canadian teams, the Winnipeg Jets taking on the St. Louis Blues. Finished second and third in the Central, respectively. Both scored 99 points, both within 2 games in the loss column. Seems like it's going to be a very tight matchup here. Who are you taking?
I'll take the Blues.
All right.
They preseason they weren't all that great, but they have picked up steam all the way. They're currently probably the hottest team in the NHL.
Okay.
So I think they're going to carry that on.
All right.
I had the Blues as well for the same reasons. They started off slow, but since 2019, they've been the hottest team. Winnipeg's a great team. They got a lot of skill, but can't pass up on momentum. So, I mean, I think it's going to be
very good.
Yeah.
I'll take the Blues as well. One last question here for you. Winnipeg Jets, what team were they before they moved?
Planet Thrashers.
The Thrashers, that's right. Okay, I was going to say, I knew there was another team that had changed over to them. So, all right. I guess that's going to do it. Before we go, I know that we're going to continue this show over the next few weeks because people don't realize it, but they're clamoring for hockey out there. But real quick, and you can change this between now and then, but if I put you on the spot right now, who wins the Stanley Cup?
I don't want to say anybody but us.
All right, let me ask you this: forget your heart, thinking with your head. Who you taking?
100% just non-biased. I guess I'm going to have to say Calgary.
Okay. All right, taking the Flames. What about you, Justin?
I'm probably going with the Bruins.
Okay.
But it's hard to say. I'm with him. Canes all day, but
absolutely,
the Bruins are a tough team. So.
I find myself doing that here often because, especially with us just getting done with March Madness, obviously I'm a huge Tar Heel fan, so a lot of times I have to differentiate between thinking with my heart, which I always pick Carolina, and thinking with my head, which sometimes is a different answer. But again, we're going to keep coverage up of the Stanley Cup playoffs. You guys want to change those as we move throughout, of course, you guys can. So that's going to do it for the first edition of Ross in the Rink. Appreciate you guys joining us for the inaugural edition. And again, we're going to be keeping up to date with all things hockey right here on In the Rink. So make sure to stay tuned each and every week across all of the RO Sports Show's platforms. That is Anthony Bristow, Justin Clark. I am Matt Harrelson. Appreciate you joining us. We'll see you right back here next week for more Ross in the Rink.
Shut up and sit down.